Morning, folks. This is the Podman community meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Whoops, I cannot make the screen image go forward. I'll go here, though, and just go briefly over what this meeting is all about. We meet on the first Tuesday of even number months. We also have one on odd number months for the call meetings. This meeting is more for demos and discussions along those lines, whereas the call meetings are more technically design kind of things that we talk about generally there. Topics for this meeting and the other one are driven by requests to me or to Podman.io itself, or wherever we can get them from. We're always happy to take those. So if you have something you'd like to demo, whether or not it's part of the Podman Builder and Scopio or just container related, we're happy to do that. And our meeting notes are in the HackMD. I've put them inside the chat as well for Google. And if you see something that I've put in there that's incorrect, please let me know and or just change it. And then if you have any links, especially from the presenters that you want to share, please add them there, and I will include those within the notes that we publish later. And so for today, we have a talk from Jan about container libraries, Monorepo, where it stands, and and a quick demo, or a demo for that, I shouldn't say quick. So, and then Valentin will be here talking to us about image mode demos. Happy to have him back for this meeting. And then Neil will wrap us up as far as discussion topics go for DevConf.cz. And then I'll ask you to put on your thinking hats right now and think about things you'd like to talk about in August for the next meeting. And then at the end of that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I will hand it over to Jan.
Thank you. So you should see my screen, and I have a short demo about my progress on the Monorepo project I'm working on. I presented some document describing what I'm going to do last time on Cabal meeting, and this is just the continuation of this or follow-up of that. So here you can see the automation test repository where I do all those tests, and I have here 3 directories. Each directory represents the one of the repositories I was adding to the Monorepo. And for this initial proposal or test, we decided to do the common repository, which is normally in the containers/common GitHub project, the image repository, and storage. So you can see at first view that each repository has its own directory. There is the go.work file, and this actually defines what's in the Monorepo. So you can see those 3 directories are mentioned here. And the point of this file is simple. If you start working on some change in the storage directory, for example, in some Go files somewhere here, and you will try to run the tests, they will automatically, or Go will automatically find out that there is the go.work, and it will use those image or common, packages without any manual changes needed in the go.mod file, which is the benefit definitely. So the go.work is a new thing. Otherwise, everything is basically copied to those directories, but it's not simple copy, because you can also see that there are the Git history is preserved. So all those commit messages and authors and everything is preserved, and we can search in it using Gitlog or GitHub UI. So that's another change. And the last change in the directory structure is the vendor directory. Previously there was vendor directory in each of these directories in common image and storage, but now there is a single vendor, which is shared between all those 3. So basically all those 3 projects are now using single pool of dependencies, or how to call it. So this should in the future make it easier to actually vendor all those 3 projects while releasing. Let me check if I want to talk about something else here. Probably not. So let's jump to the commit messages, because that's another nice thing. So I will switch to this tab, and this is the commit from our current containers/common repository, and it mentions the bug here, like GitHub ticket, and you can see you can like click on it and move, or open it. But if we just migrate this to the new monorepo, we would lose this context, because this would no longer point to the right ticket because we are in the different repository. So I also experimented with this, and I will now switch to another tab. And this is the same thing from the containers automation tests, which is the monorepo. And you can see that I basically overwrite this ticket issue number with the right full path to the ticket. So in case we switch to monorepo, we can we will not lose the commit history, but we will also not lose the references to the tickets, which is a good thing. Of course, new tickets will be opened probably here in the issues in the monorepo. So we will still have to mention them as we are used to, but the old tickets are still searchable here, which is, I think, nice thing. There's also let me switch back. And now we can talk about the CI part of this. So previously there were serious.yaml in each of these directories. What I've done is merging this into single serious.yaml. And I'm basically executing all those tests here together. But there is one nice feature I will present in the pull requests part here. So I have 3 test pull requests opened here. Let me start with the storage PR. This is basically PR which changes some makefile in the storage in the storage directory, so in the storage project. And because both image and common are using the storage, the tests are executed, all the tests are executed. And you can see here that the tests are prefixed. There is the common test. Please ignore the filer here. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's just like something in the package. I will have to debug that. Maybe I just choose wrong commit. I'm basing that off, but the test is executed properly. And so this is for the common test. And there is also all the tests for the image module are executed, and also for the storage. And you can see they are prefixed, so it's easy to find out what each test is doing. There is also the vendor test, which is global for all of them. Previously, there were 3 of these tests for each module, but because we have single vendor directory, the vendoring happens at same time for whole monorepo, so there is a single test. And the nice thing is that if we now open the let me go back to the PRs. If we open the common changed, for example, you will see that the image tests and the storage tests are skipped, because the change is done only in the common directory, and storage and the image modules, they are not using the common module. So it's pointless it is not useful to run the image or the storage tests when nothing changed in those directories. At least that's what I think. So I try to do that in serious CI. It's quite easy in the end. And that way we can save some time. Even if we have everything in monorepo, not all the tests have to be executed. We can just choose some tests to execute. And the last test PR shows the same feature when everything is basically skipped, because the change happens in git ignore, which is not used to build anything. So we can also use the zero CI feature to save some time while running the test, and we don't have to run everything. It can be based on the change we are doing. So that's for the CI part. And the last thing I'm going to show you is the releases part, because in case of Monorepo, we have everything in single repository, so also releases will look a little bit different. So my idea was that we could prefix them with the prefix the release name with the project name. So we have the storage and the version here, and if I scroll down, there is like image release, and even further down there is common release, and the tags, if you notice here, they are named with the, okay, it's not visible here, but you can see it here that the tag is with the is named storage / and the version name, which is kind of nice because you can use that naturally in the go.mod in the depending projects. In case we would like to pinpoint, the particular release, you can just use storage / and the version name. And I think that's all I have for now. Please tell me if you like it or if you don't like it, or you can write to me later, on Slack or on email. So thanks. That's all.
Any questions? Mohan.
Yeah, quick question, Jan. For the individual releases, so storage, image, or common, does it will have all the other directories as well within the release, or is it only those particular directories for the release?
It's all the directories. Like, the releases on GitHub, they are done using Git tag, so they will contain everything.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how, like, when building RPMs or using that project in other projects, like using go.mod, it has no like, we shouldn't have any issue with that. But in case someone downloads the tarball, for example, generated by GitHub, it will really contain everything.
Okay.
And you need to know that this tarball is actually released for the storage. So other repositories might be in some weird shape. Maybe that's true.
Okay. Thank you.
What happens if I want to git blame with the history, because it's merging out of 3 different repos? Does git blame still work if I've ever?
Yeah.
Or I guess I need to give a bad commit anyway, and that will tell where it came from.
Yeah, git blame, it should still work.
Sorry, I mean bisect.
Okay. Let me think. Like, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't work, but I haven't tried it myself, to be honest. But the commits are like merged together.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I will test it out.
Because you need to know the old broken commit, where you want to say, or like the last good commit usually, right? You give the good commit as the old one, and the bad commit is the new one if you try to find a regression. And I guess in that case, you would need to know, like, you couldn't say like, I know like storage version 1 something, because now it's merged, and in the merged repo you don't preserve the old text, I presume.
I think it should be easy enough to copy the old text as well. For mapping untagged commits, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Like, the text should be copied. They are not right now. I will note it here. But that's a good point. Like, if we move, we should also copy the text. I will check if the tool I'm using for the merging of Git repositories actually supports that out of the box. There is a good chance it would.
I have a couple of questions, John, if anybody else has one yet. So once this is all set up and you put a PR for storage, is it going to build just storage, or is it going to build all the way up the stack, since there's dependencies on image for storage and then common for storage?
It will build everything.
Okay. But not if you do a commit for common. It only builds common. Or is it
Yes,
going to
that's,
okay.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and then do you see any changes to the people who currently depend on C storage, C common, or whatever, having to make in their code? People that vendor
and we have discussed it on Kaba last time, I think, so it's recorded also there in the doc. But they would have to change the go.mod to the new URL, basically. Okay. So, and we also discussed like that it might be hard to predict like who actually uses our repositories. So in case we are going to switch to Monorepo, we have to of course switch it in our go.mod, but we also have to somewhere tell people like this old repo, it's outdated. We will still keep it there, but new releases are happening in Monorepo, and you should switch. There is something like deprecated in the go.mod, which we can use in those old repositories, and it shows the message when people are trying to use that deprecated module. So we could communicate it that way, probably. That's one of the options.
Okay. Do we have plans for announcing this for X amount of time, or can we put some plans together so that people are forewarned, like a month in advance or a couple of weeks in advance, anyway, that this change is coming?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we are that far with the change itself. Like, I was presenting this as an option, and I actually was expecting some discussion maybe, and someone leading, the project to really like decide this is the way we want to do that. But we are not that far that I would really think about like announcements and stuff like that. But of course, like it would be the next step definitely if we decide to go this way.
Yeah. I think we kind of have to move at a single instant, at least one repo at a time, so that PRs only come into one place and so that updates only happen in one place. But we could maybe do it immediately after a release or something like that. We can't give users notice to move to a new repo when the new repo is not actually ready.
Yeah, I can also keep that in sync for some time, probably, like the old repo and new repo if it helps, because I have a script which takes those 3 repositories and it creates that repo like from scratch, the merged one. So, I mean, I can imagine, running that somewhere to keep things in sync, but like long term, we shouldn't do that.
No. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the question is still like if we want to combine this with like a potential like GitHub organization move with CNCF and so on. So we only change our module once, like the import URL, because doing that twice is quite a pain.
Yeah, we'll be discussing all the timelines and stuff later. This is something we are just working on and see how feasible it is, whether it's going to save us from some of the pain points we are facing on a daily basis. So those are the things that we are evaluating. But yeah, we'll look at the timeline in the coming days.
I have one more question for Jan. You showed how you rewrite the ticket URLs. Does it rewrite commit references, because the commits are getting rewritten, right? So all the chars are changed. So sometimes I put like fixes, commit something, or there's like this commit char in the commit message itself, and so that does it update the text when it notices there's a commit char?
Yeah, it most likely does not do that, and I'm not sure if it can do it easily. That's yeah. I will have to think about that.
Word all 3 repos at once because we can have cross repo commit references. But well, usually if you put a commit ID into Google, it finds something. Maybe that's hopefully good enough.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because from the tool point of view, it should be able to recognize like a char hash, and then it should be like, if it has the original history, and then it should be able to know which commit.
Yeah, I think if you convert a single repo, it should work if you have 3 and you can have references between them. You would get order independencies, like if C storage refers to a C common commit and C common elsewhere refers to a C storage commit, they would have to be migrated in parallel.
Like that will be probably harder to do, because from the implementation point of view, the tool allows you to run Python code with a commit message as an input and changed commit message as an output. But like it doesn't have any like logic, like you just have the one commit message as an input and another as an output. There's no like tree of commits anywhere, so it would have to be done by ourselves. I don't think the tool like supports it by default. Changing the issue reference was easy, because you just like see the fixed string and you replace it with the full path, to GitHub issue. You don't need any extra context out of the commit message, but for changing the commit hashes, it would be different. So not sure if it's worth it. That's my point. And in case we will add another repository there in the future, like Podman, we really cannot change those. That's actually another thing. Like, can we add another repo there easily? That's another question.
Yeah, my other question too for you is, you've done this move already to automation to the new repo. Are we going to have to redo it in a month or two whenever we say it's going to be live? Or how are you going to get the difference that's, the PRs that have gone into common? Or are you tracking those somehow?
Yeah, so as I said, I have script which generates that. So I can like remove this repository completely, run the script, and it will take the fresh commits from the common image and storage and generates this repository. So that's easy.
Good.
And but like as I said, the question is, in case we want to extend it and add, for example, Podman there or Builda there, I would have to think how to do that, because I'm not sure if that's possible with the current tool I'm using, which would be like also an issue. And I got this idea during this meeting, so obviously I don't know the answer.
No, freeze.
Just to highlight a technical note, for the tag format, I think Go imposes a specific one so that it can find the modular arrays inside a multi-modular repo. But I didn't actually try that.
Yeah, I mean, I was testing that and it worked, but if there is anything else needed or some other format, we might change it. Like, there's not an issue.
Yeah. And we'll also need to think, when we do go live, how do we freeze the other ones? Do we put up a notification on there, or how do we lock those down so people don't go ahead and commit to them? And what do we do with commits that are in progress?
And what do you do with backports if you need to fix an older version?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Okay, sounds like we're wrapping up and we're starting to push on the time a little bit. So are there any other questions for Jan about this?
Actually, Paul, with the backports, you mean those other branches, like version 0.63, right? And we should also migrate them. Okay.
I'm not sure if we have to migrate. I'm just saying we need to think about what you want to do there. If you want, because the distro, let's say a rel branch or whatever, is pulling from the old location and then do you want really to update all the Go mod references there in all the old branches? Probably not. So
Yeah, thanks. I think it makes sense to make another call where we discuss these implementation things, because I need more input from people who actually know how the process looks like currently.
I agree. We probably want to copy the branches, but we don't want to change the process for the stable releases. Worst case, we can always export a fix as emails and use git apply or something to apply them in the modified path in the other repo. It's little manual work, but it's one time basically.
I think we've discovered a number of things we still need to explore here, and we'll go ahead and do so, but we've run out of time to discuss those right now. So with that, thank you, Jan. And we'll move on to Valentin, who's going to be talking about image mode and giving us a demo there.
Thanks, Tom. Very cool discussion. Good seeing everybody. How's everybody doing? So yeah, glad to be on the meeting here. Has been a long while. For me, as you know, I've been working on image mode for quite a while. So I'm going to talk a little bit about image mode in this presentation. I also recorded a demo I gave at Summit. You know, I'm lazy and I like to recycle everything I do. So those are the slides. Pretty much, or I copied them together from a number of lightning talks I gave on Summit 2 weeks ago, where image mode got GA. So for those who don't know image mode, you're going to learn something. For those who do, you may still learn something. If you have any questions, at the moment, just staring at a camera, not very interactive. I like the human experience. So please don't wait for the end. Just raise your hand or just interrupt me by talking. I will ignore the chat. So we have a real human experience here. And the slides, as you may tell, since they come from Red Hat Summit, they're very, 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 very focused on RHEL and image mode, and that's a community meeting. So everything I tell also applies to Fedora Bootsy, not on the product level, but on the technological level. Everything I show here, I even use CentOS Bootsy, so not a RHEL Bootsy image. So everything's open source. We're Red Hat, right? So to image mode. I usually pitch image mode as the marriage between good old sysadmin handcrafting work and the more DevOps workflow. Imagine a gray beard and a young, modern, dynamic DevOps engineer on the Mac had a baby, and this baby would be tasked to make both parents happy. That means traditional Linux sysadmin handcrafting with DNF and RPM and Ansible and everything we know and love, and the more container native world of DevOps, where you have CI/CD pipelines, where you use GitOps, where you automated everything you can possibly do because of all the benefits, and probably maybe because you're like me and lazy. And this is exactly what image mode is. So image mode at the very high level is a new, now called mode. You can see it as a flavor or another variant of RHEL, which is binary identical to what we now call package mode. This package mode is you update your systems via DNF. It's a mutable system. Image mode is immutable. All contents are shipped in the form of a container. So this is what this slide tries to illustrate here. So it's placed right in between the graybeard sysadmin and the young dynamic DevOps engineer, or there are also older dynamic DevOps engineers, right? Sure, there are a couple on the call. So this is something to keep in mind. Quite often, at least initially, when people look into bootable containers and image mode, the question pops up, well, it doesn't really make sense if I run them with Podman run. These images are way too big. they're way too big because the entire operating system is part of the image. The kernel, the bootloader, the drivers, everything you need to, run an operating system, entire machine, but you don't need for an application container where you're mostly interested in only small parts of the user space. So scratch the idea mentally, at least for production use cases, to run image mode or Bootsy containers with Podman or Docker, container cryo. They are not used and meant to be run as application containers. So on the next slide, I'm going to walk you through the workflow. How does it look like, the new world that we can live in to, well, pretty much operate or build and manage and deploy our operating systems? Similar to application containers, actually the pipeline is the same, and that's the beauty of it. Similar to application containers, everything starts with a container file or a Docker file. This is really the center of gravity. This is where we define the contents of what we want to run. For application containers, obviously the contents of the container. Think of it as a Fedora base image. You install HTTPD on top, and then you run the web server somewhere. You attach it to a database. That's what we've been doing for quite a while. We build it. You can build it with any tool you know and love. I hope it's Podman and Builder, but for sure everything is standardized. You can use BuildKit, Docker, Canico, whatever your heart desires or your boss requires. At some point, once these images are built, we push it to a container registry. So then we come to a chicken and egg problem. So the contents of the operating system of image mode for RHEL or Fedora Bootsy, CentOS Bootsy, and all the derivatives is a container image, and we want to boot it. Well, there is ongoing work for Anaconda, the installer in the Fedora universe and RHEL universe, to support just pulling a container image and install that. So that will be pretty neat. But for disconnected installations, we still need some disk image. So disk image could be an Anaconda ISO, could be raw images for Azure, could be AMIs for Amazon, AWS, etc., etc. So there's a tool called Bootsy Image Builder, which does that exactly for us. If you have a disconnected edge environment or deployment, you just copy the disk image to your USB stick, you plug it into your server or into your nodes or into your pipeline, factory pipeline, you update or install. So this is how the initial deployment would look like. So now for the two operations, that means the counterpart to DNF update, which would be Bootsy update. Bootsy is like the heart and soul of image mode and bootable containers, which internally uses Scopio to pull images down. So it stands for bootable container. So what Bootsy would do is, after the sysadmin or the pipeline build the container file, push the image to the registry, it will just pull the image down from the registry, explode the contents on the system, and on reboot, we will boot into the new state. So, pretty much when you look at the red arrows, that's the dotted one on the bottom, it's exactly how we manage application containers already for over a decade. And that's the beauty of it. So with image mode, we can reuse pretty much all the innovations, and automation of the past decade, and actually now a bit more, and apply all of that to the operating system. As I joked before, I'm lazy. And now I'm that lazy that I built at the moment running on a Mac, but my Fedora systems, I manage them on GitHub. Updates, and if there's a new base image for Fedora Bootsy, Renovate bot opens a pull request. I still want to at least have the illusion to be in the driver's seat and be in charge, so I still want to click on the freaking merge button, and after that it will get built, and then it can get published, and then my nodes will get updated automatically. That's actually exactly the same workflow for Podman auto updates. So it's pretty cool stuff. So one thing to say on this slide, package mode won't go away. So neither the Fedora or CentOS community nor Red Hat is forcing image mode and bootable container down our throats. This is an additional offering enabling new use cases. And if you want to try it out, or if you have use cases for it, absolutely welcome to try it out, but you're not forced to. Same on Fedora, package mode won't go away. So here you can see a little bit of comparison of different workflows and tools that we've been using historically with package mode, and how the tools and workflows we can use going forward on image mode when it comes to building. Well, historically, we've been using Image Builder to do that if we wanted to customize our disk images. Some people prefer just to fetch the vanilla golden RHEL image and then use Ansible on top to do everything. For image mode, you can use Podman Builder or whatever you wanna use. Updates for package mode, DNF with image mode, its images, and so on and so forth. You can go through all the details on the Red Hat FAQ. Let's go to something more technical, because I think the people or the audience on this call is more technical. The cool part, or what I love about image mode and Bootsy, or the distribution of Bootsy in the form of Fedora Bootsy, CentOS Bootsy, and so on, is that the operating system is immutable. So you have transactional updates. Means if something goes wrong during the update, update won't be applied. And since we have a seamless A/B update model, if something goes wrong, I can just roll back and not bother anymore. And there was something at the beginning of May on my Fedora machine. I wanted to be cool and use Fedora 42 before it was released. And I really had to get some work done, but I did it, while just getting a new coffee. When I came back, rebooted. And then for one reason that I didn't care to debug, my wireless card wasn't detected. So I couldn't connect to the network anymore. And I felt so stupid. I was like, oh, Valentin, you stupid guy. What did you do? I felt like crap, because I really didn't want to reinstall my system, and I really didn't want to debug anything because I had a lot of work in my back to get done. And then I felt even more stupid when I realized, I could just run Bootsy rollback and not bother, and that's exactly what I did. So kind of a funny anecdote that even I, who helped deliver the baby, still need to get used to the new workflow, because I was used to the old package mode workflow. And if it was a kernel issue, I could still go back to another kernel without connecting to the web or bringing, my notebook down and attaching to the Ethernet. But I very much enjoyed the experience living in this new world. For sure, you can also roll forward. And one cool thing about the anecdote on upgrading to Fedora 42 is that upgrades are really simple now. Because the only thing I had to do was open a pull request, or if you're in GitLab, a merge request, and change the tag from 41 to 42, and off we go. So upgrading to a new version of Fedora or RHEL is now super, super simple. Also, testing is much easier because you can just do it directly. I heard some boop. Mark.
Yeah, kind of a plant question, but does this require two separate system partitions?
No, that's a very beautiful thing. Thanks for this question, Mark. So Mark and I didn't study that, but we worked on this for sure. So the cool thing about, and this is probably a very nerdy question, so I love it, is that no, Bootsy doesn't require a separate partition. Everything is S3 based. We've been working and implementing and deploying and managing our S3 based systems for over a decade. So nothing is really new here. The composition is new. And that's what I like. We just composed a set of technologies in a way that wasn't done before, and we made using these technologies so much more simpler than before. So no two partitions, such as, for instance, I think Chroma has two partitions. So also the concept isn't new. Just for our desktop systems, at least for Linux nerds, for most of us, it may feel new or alien at the beginning, but image-based systems have been all around us all the time. I never run DNF update on my smart TV image-based. I never run an update on my iPhone image-based. And I never had to reboot my operating or my iPhone if I upgrade or update my Firefox browser. Why? Because it's containerized on top. So a lot of these things have been around for quite a while. Thanks for the question, Mark. So now I just gotta go back to the other. Yeah, there we go. So talking about the immutability of image mode. So while everything for sure is writable at build time because it's a container native workflow, here just exemplary container file, from bootc, install your packages, you copy your content over, you run your config scripts. Everything for sure is writable within the rules and limitations of a container build environment. But at runtime, and that makes it mostly immutable, everything, the entire file system is mounted read-only except for etc and var, and even if you root, you can't really screw with it, which also improves security. Why is etc mutable? Because we still want to support the use case that a sysadmin can just apply local changes or configuration changes without having to reboot the system or even build their own image. I, as a user, also want that in the context of Podman, for instance. I want to change the registries conf because I want to add new mirrors or change the mirrors, things like that. So when an update is applied in case of a conflict, bootc tries to apply a three-way merge. If the conflict can't be resolved, well, classic use case, then local changes always win. Why is var writable? Because it really should. We need some path to have mutable and persistent state and data, where, for instance, logs can be written, and this really is var. If you get interested by it, just flash the QR code, and then it will bring you directly to upstream bootc docs, where you can find all the nerdy stuff. So I was pitching before already how I don't have to reboot my iPhone if I update Firefox, despite iOS being an immutable system. And that is because those applications are containerized on top. And I'm a big proponent of that. I advertise for it a lot. In fact, I blog about this a lot, that in many cases, it makes sense to containerize our workloads on top of image mode. It's pretty much the same what we're doing in OpenShift, because containers run on top of RCOS or OpenShift, which is an immutable system. Silverblue does the same. Well, Chrome OS does the same. Android TV does the same. iOS does the same. Why? Because then our applications and the operating system have an independent life cycle. We have a clear separation of concerns. We decouple applications from the host. If we containerize, we also have improved security because we have around each and every application all the container environments, which add a number of additional security layers around the applications. And as we all know, security is to a high degree about lots of layers. Here, the onion grows bigger. And we also have improved uptime. Why? Because the life cycles are decoupled. If I update my Firefox, I don't have to reboot my entire host, because that would be unfortunate and cause downtime. And the great thing on top is that we can use the very same pipeline to build our host system and the application system. So that's a pretty cool stuff. And distributions like Silverblue use that or make a lot of use of that. There's Flatpak, among others, also for this use case to support that. And then there are also our friends over in Toolbox, where, when you run on Silverblue or an immutable system, that you have some of the illusion of it being writable, but you're actually running inside of a container. So cool thing if you want to have a more static, software appliance kind of containerization of your applications. Then you can combine image mode and quadlets. So here there's a blog on that explaining, different. It got released, I think, or published last Thursday, but I wrote it back in March. It just took a long time in the publishing pipeline for it to pop out, where I elaborate a little bit on the different ways how we can embed containerized workloads on bootable containers on top of image mode of Fedora. Actually, there's also upstream docs to Fedora. So the idea is here that you can embed the quadlets directly in the image. You have a clear separation of concerns and all the benefits we had before. And what I mostly like about, or one things I really love about image mode is that I personally perceive it less as a technical change and more as a cultural change. Because when we look at the spectrum of different operations and how we manage services, there was like a cultural split between sysadmins and other operations on top, such as DevOps. And now a sysadmin can shift further to DevOps, or a DevOps engineer can also shift closer to, operations and workloads and work items that historically sysadmins have been doing. So there's something I really, really like about that.
Just a quick time check, Valentin. We got about 10 more minutes.
Thanks, Tom. So there shouldn't be too much anymore. Here, a more or less quick demo, 6 minutes. Oof. So you can see that also upstream on the Fedora Getting Started guide. Here, just running, what I'm doing here is I'm running you through the process of pretty much a day 2 operation. What we have here, it's a CentOS Stream 10 based system. I copy in a binary, which is called hello. Unsurprisingly, it will print something on standard out. So then I will build it, I will push it to the registry. I will deploy it using a tool called Podman Bootsy, which just abstracts a couple of the steps needed to run, to convert the OCI image, Podman build into a disk image, and then boot a virtual machine and injects the SSH key. So it's mostly meant for playing a little bit around, maybe doing some smoke tests, but do not use that in production. It's not meant for production use cases. So I hop a little bit further here. So now we booted, we're inside the VM. And as you can see here, when you run Bootsy status is that it will spit out the booted image, where you can see the fully qualified image name of the image along with the digest. It's pretty cool. The digests are really nice. Using container images or image-based systems is really nice also to figure out, there's a given CVE in my image. Which parts of my fleet are impacted? Well, I just run Bootsy status, I compare the digest, and then I know it. Why? Because the drift is contained. Initially, it was wanted to advertise image mode as 0 drift, but we were not allowed to for legal reasons, because if we want to, we can still shoot ourselves in the foot. So now image mode is advertised as containing drift, because we can't just DNF update. So our fleets, the nodes will not drift apart, or it's very hard to make them drift apart if done right. And accelerate delivery. Why? Because we can use and reuse all the pipelines we have already for application containers. So here, hello, oops, Red Hat Summit 2024, oopsie whoopsie, got the date wrong. So what I'm doing now is I just rebuild the image with an updated binary, which prints the right image. Here, if I run Bootsy update check, it can see, okay, there's a new image, an update available. If I now run Bootsy update and reboot, here we can see I'm rebooting and I run it again. Now it says, hello, Red Hat Summit 2025, bravo. So this is exactly how the use case looks like. Again, here the QR code brings you to if you want to repeat that on your own system, the demo here is scripted, so you can just go to some GitHub repo I prepared for demos like that and play with it. Last words, where to find information. So you can find information for sure on the Fedora Bootsy documentation. I can probably click on that here. We took a lot of time and effort and maybe even love to write these docs to make sure that this new offering, the new technology, bootable containers are approachable. So you can go and have a look here. There's a getting started guide. There are slides I recorded last year with a number of more applications and sales pitches and where to find the base images and how to do everything. Also see a couple of references on how to work with it when you're on the Mac using Podman machine. You may see some similarities to slide 3 or 4 before. And here also a recorded demo, which does essentially the same than we just looked on the slide before, how to work with it. You can find best practices for building containers, here limitations of a container built environment, things like that. How, for instance, also how to embed containers. So the content of, or the story I was telling before on, using quadlets, for instance, and how to containerize on top. So nothing I said on the slides or on the audio track is new. Everything is public. We're Red Hat. The docs first go upstream and then they go downstream. There's also a couple of interesting new docs on the management story and, for instance, flight control and how these things fit in, how you can do troubleshooting, and for sure related projects and how they're being used. And it further links to the Bootsy upstream docs, which are much more nerdy. If you want to check them out, highly recommend it. There's also the Red Hat landing page of Bootsy. Here, if you want to play with it and get your hands dirty, you can click here on exploring the interactive lab. This will bring you to an interactive experience where you can toy with image mode and Bootsy just in your browser. You don't have to install anything if you're on the Mac, on Windows, or just want to see how this stuff works. Highly recommended. Easy to get a developer subscription. Also, there's a new FAQ, which you can go through of the frequently asked questions, at least for, this is obviously we are on redhat.com, so this is tied to RHEL. And as I think Neil also pointed out, yes, Bootsy is a CNCF project. So everything happens in the open. Pretty happy about that. If you have any questions, now is the time.
Any quick questions for Valentin, because we're pushing the clock at this point. We still have one more quick topic to go through.
Thanks for your patience, Tom.
Oh, no problem. Valentin, if you can send me your slides, if I can go ahead and publish those elsewhere, and then I will get links into the notes and stuff for people. Appreciate it. It was a great talk. So
yeah, thank you very much. I'll send them via email, Tom.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Let's go. All right. Neil, did you want to go over Podman at DevConf?
Sure. Just to let everybody know here, and hopefully when people watch the video, we are at DevConf with a booth next week, DevConf.cz, on June 12th to 14th. We would love to have you come by and talk with us. We have some swag to give out if people contribute some PRs and etc. So come by, and we're very interested in meeting our friends from the community. So that's it.
Right. Any other questions, comments before we wrap up here? And while you're thinking about that, I will just say that our next meeting is Tuesday, August 5th at 11 a.m. And for the Podman community meeting, our next Cabal meeting will be on July 1st, 2025, also at 11 a.m. If I said 11 p.m. for the other one, it's 11 a.m. for that as well. And any questions, comments before we wrap up? Right, I am going to thank our presenters today. Thank everybody for attending, and we will wrap this one up. So I can find the stop recording button.